Hi, Kings Mountain. We're back again with updates with the city manager. I'm your city manager, Jim Palaniuk, and today we're out here at the intersection downtown of Mountain Street and Cherokee Street. And this is, as many of you know, kind of our first phase of streetscape. And why are we out here today? Well, I'll tell you. Because we're highlighting a mistake. We don't typically do that in local government, but I think it's really important that we do that here. We found that in this case, we had originally, as part of the streetscape project, built a portion of this Cherokee Street downtown as one way. And as we started to see it in practice, and we talked to the stakeholders who were involved, we recognized the fact that that was a mistake. That really needed to be two-way, and it wasn't functioning the way that it should. And I think it points out something really well, that oftentimes in local government we don't do nearly well enough. And that is, when you find that you've made a mistake, acknowledge it, fix it, and move on. And I think too often our ego or our pride or some other reason gets in the way, and we can't really recognize the fact that maybe we made a mistake and it's time to fix it and move on. But the biggest key in this thing, I think, more than anything, is to recognize why the mistake was made. And I think what we learned in this case, and we're glad to acknowledge that, and we think it's going to make a big difference in the future when it comes to decision making and ways to avoid mistakes. And that is, we as a city didn't involve the right decision makers when we made this decision originally. Had we involved all of the stakeholders for downtown in a meaningful way, so that those people who live with this streetscape every day could have been a big part of the design of how it would function, then we probably never would have made this. And I think that's critical to note, because as we move forward with a couple of major projects, one of which is the additional phases of streetscape here in downtown, as well as a very detailed, comprehensive Parks and Rec master plan, we are learning from that past mistake. And what we're doing is we're making certain that the critical stakeholders, both internal to our organization, external to our organization, and the ones that live with and that have to be a part of these things that we're trying to do, trying to bring back to the community, are the ones that have a great deal of input into it. So this idea of input becomes critical, because we have learned that good decision making cannot happen in a vacuum. It can't happen in silos. It's not one person making a decision and telling everyone else how it's going to happen. It's getting the people together that who in combination have the kind of skills, background, and knowledge that will make the right decisions, because they're involving enough of the people who have to be impacted by it. So we say that, for instance, when it comes to the next phases of streetscape. We have hired the firm of Kimley Horn, along with Destination by Design, to work with us and work with the downtown stakeholders to make certain that as we design that next phase of streetscape, it is the highest priority, and it functions as well as it can for the final uses, so that the people who live here, who have businesses here, who come here to enjoy the downtown, get the greatest amount of value from it, and that it functions effectively. And of course, that it uses the city's resources to the fullest extent. We will be doing something similar with our Parks and Rec master plan, making certain that we're getting the functions, the facilities, not just that are the highest priority, but that are in the right place, that serve the neighborhoods, that serve the community, that serve people the best. And we do that because we've had community involvement, community engagement, and input from stakeholders. So, to the extent we're not doing that, let us know, because the goal is always have good quality decision making, because you're involving the right people. Now, of course, that doesn't mean we're always going to make everybody happy or everybody satisfied, but at least we'll have a much better chance, quite honestly, to avoid making mistakes like this in the future. And again, we'll not hesitate to point our mistakes, but the goal is obviously don't make them. And we have a much better chance not to if we follow this process of involving a lot of different individuals and different stakeholders and community engagement in making these decisions. So with that, we certainly look forward to this upcoming budget year, because I think you're going to see a lot about exactly what I talked about. The next phase of Streetscape, some nice improvements that will begin to kick off our long-term comprehensive master plan when it comes to Parks and Rec, and probably some nice improvements with trails as well. So, just kind of a look to the future. Very excited about some of those things. We'd love to have more community involvement, more community engagement. I've been your city manager, Jim Palahniuk. Until next time, this was Updates with the City Manager.